We know that quite often from our survey results that people often think in the early stages of dementia that it's just normal ageing and their relative might become a little bit repetitive or they might be doing some unusual things. Can you just describe a few of the things that made you think perhaps Mum wasn't just getting older?
Mum was getting quite depressed, and she was a really outgoing, happy person. She wasn't really bothered how she looked. She was struggling with everyday tasks. She was forgetful. Her appearance, she was losing things, not being able to organise, and then from there she became more anxious and became quite frightened because she didn't know what was happening to her.
And I think, quite often when we're hearing the stories of people who support a person living with dementia, they start to think, hang on a moment, this isn't quite right, this isn't normal ageing. And this is a very clear picture that you're giving now around some of the symptoms that are traditionally associated with dementia.
I think in those sort of very early stages, it's something that can be maybe shrugged off and just thought of as we all sometimes become forgetful, and forget what we're doing, or maybe just not organise ourselves. But I think what you were talking about is actually how those different skills were starting to be affected. So the day-to-day tasks were becoming much more difficult for me to do, and finding that maybe frightening, frustrating. And so I think the important thing is that those changes that come with dementia are often more life-changing. They're more significant. They're not just a mild thing that you can shrug off. It's starting to make normal life more difficult for you. And as the condition progresses, it becomes more obvious, and maybe you start to get changes in other areas as well, which starts to build a different picture than just, they're getting a bit older.
So 63% of people said forgetting things they'd just done or been told was one of the first symptoms of dementia.
For me, there is a clear distinction between someone who keeps repeating something. My mum used to do that all the time. Simple example, if we were going out to meet friends, for instance, I would say, Mummy, we're going to go and see Thelma, we're going to have lunch with her, so we'll leave probably about 12:30 because we're going to have lunch at 1. Half an hour later, what are we doing today? And I'd repeat it. And then the fourth time, and she would say, who are we seeing today? That is the signal that there is something wrong.
For me, it was more Mum's personality changed. Mum seemed to lose confidence. For example, Mum and I used to go shopping every Friday. We'd go to Marks and Spencer's. It was a pleasure shopping, it wasn't food shopping. And then we would separate. Mum would go off and then we'd meet up an hour later. And then I noticed that Mum was like trailing me around Marks and Spencer's. And then I realised she's not comfortable on her own. So they were the first signs for me. And Mum got very depressed. Yeah. And Mum lost interest in lots of things that she used to love to do. She lost interest in all of that, which then fits with the depression. Mm-hmm. But for me, it wasn't she never was like that, was she? She never repeated herself. No, it was just the change in her personality.
There were certain things that in hindsight are very, very real and very obvious. But at the time, you're looking at degenerative age, aren't you? You are looking at, there's a bit of confusion. We do it. Everybody does it. You walk in a room, what have I come in here for? I've gone to Sainsbury's, what I'm after. There's always that going on. In hindsight, when you put it all together as a bigger spectrum, you say, I think the thing like Linda was saying then is that with Mum, there was where she wasn't coping more than confusion, repeating herself. She just wasn't coping, and she knew she wasn't coping.
I think because Mum is a very, very intelligent woman.
Yeah.
And I think her intelligence enabled her to mask.
Yeah.
Mum was a big masker, looking back. So there were things that she would be putting into place. So she would write lists. Not something that but she'd always written lists, but there was more lists.
Yeah.
She would do a medication the night before and write, and it was all written down, and she'd put them in little egg cups. Nothing from us, and I just thought, that's just Mum being organised, because Mum was a very organised. But obviously she knew that she was forgetting. This was her putting in a coping strategy, because she was forgetting.
I think there's something there, just listening to you both talking about your mum, around the importance of early diagnosis.
Yes.
You probably were seeing things that you didn't realise you were seeing.